and welcome to the latest edition of the Men's Health Series with Vitality. My name is Jamie and I am part of the coaching team. Hopefully you've been with us for our events so far this month. We've covered a real diverse range of topics. We've gone into cancer, we've talked about mental health, we've talked about race, business, and today's one I am super excited for. We're with a man who probably likes and loves running maybe more than I do, which is the first time I think I've ever said that. So we're super fortunate to be joined by Will Goodge, who is a running legend at the moment. He's someone who is taking over doing some amazing things, but he's also got a really interesting story for it. So from a background of a former semi-professional rugby player, moving on through life, maybe some things didn't go the way as planned, and adversity hit, and grief was something which was a real big part of his story. And I think it's a topic that as men in particular, we struggle to talk about just a little bit, and how we can use these things as a force for good. I think a good film is made by a turnaround, and you're definitely an example of that. So Will, firstly, thank you so much for joining us today. I have run with Will a few times, and he's an aspiration to me. If everyone watching, please do get involved in this conversation, ask your questions. It's an amazing story, so thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me. Good
no
to be
bother.
Here.
All right, so we're going to cover a few things today. I think it's important that we not only dive into how running has changed your life and how it can affect other people, but also we want to get to know you a little bit better, because I think that you're quite good at making what you do seem normal. And for me and for everyone else watching, it isn't normal by any stretch of the imagination. But before we get into all of that, I want to know about life before running and what it was like for you, because actually I'm someone who's always liked running. It's always been my thing, but I know that wasn't the case for you. So semi-professional rugby background, modeling, what were you like as a youngster, and kind of like what was your focus in life? Where were you at?
Well, growing up, I was always really active. So running around the playground, doing all kinds of sports, football, rugby, tennis, I played basketball, all kinds of stuff. So I was always interested in some kind of competition. And for the most part, I liked team games. So growing up, I mean, as a kid, I did athletics, so I ran the 400 meters, but not to any level. So running was probably my least favorite active thing to do, if it was just solely running without any purpose. So be that in a sport or even around the playground playing tag, like I'd like that element, but not actually going out for a run. So yeah, I kind of went towards rugby rather than football when you get to that age and you have to make a choice. And it went okay. It went okay for me. It wasn't like ever brilliant, but I got further than I thought I was going to get. And I remember, so in off seasons when it'd be like, oh, you need to get fit for the new season coming, I would hate the thought of going for a run. I mean, I wouldn't go and do a 5K. I remember going for a few, might have been like 3, but I'd get out the door and I'd just start running. I'd hate it. And then it would just get progressively worse. And I'd get back and be like, well, why did I do that? So, yeah, it was, I've obviously made big changes.
I mean,
since
imagine if you were listening to yourself back then. What the hell? It's so different.
For me, there was just no, I couldn't understand the goal of it. Like in rugby, it's very clear, like you're going to win, or like you're with your team, you can high five them making a good play, or if you tackle someone really well, like everyone gets kind of hyped up, but there was no like energy to running. And I didn't understand sort of like maybe the mental aspects of it, because I never did it enough to warrant that reward, you might say.
And that is something that I've heard so many people talk about before, like, what's the point? And I struggle sometimes to give an answer, because I'm like, it's hard to explain, but there's so much more to it than the physical element. And that for me is what it's actually all about. And I want to kind of move on to, I appreciate we are skipping over. You're being quite humble. You're a pretty good rugby player. Like Will is a bit of a unit for anyone that can't see. So actually, again, that's why running is an interesting thing, because you're probably not built for it. Like, sadly, I am probably more built for it, but I'd rather be your shape. But anyway, I want to talk about your first running experience. So I think you've spoken about it was like LA, but more importantly than the run itself, I kind of want to know a little bit about like what it made you feel afterwards, and also why the time of it was so important for you in your journey.
So I was spending some time in LA because my ex-girlfriend lived there, and I'd arrive, I'd have jet lag, and I didn't really know what to do in those hours I was awake before anyone else was. So it was about 4 a.m. Didn't really know what to do. I was by Santa Monica Beach, which is all kind of pretty, and I was like, pretty good. If I was ever going to go for a run and watch the sunrise, I was like, maybe this is like the time to go for one. So I went down, we were staying in a hotel. For some reason, I gave my shoes to the concierge, which they were quite confused about, because where the hotel was, you had to, well, there's a road and tarmac to get down to the beach. So I gave the shoes away. I started running from the hotel, and then because I thought it'd be a beach run, I didn't want to have to carry my shoes.
Okay.
But what I ended up doing was running along the boardwalk, so it was slatted wood basically. I was like, I'll run until I see the sun come over, like I think they're the Malibu hills that way. And I was like, and then I'll just turn around and that would be good. I've wasted some time. I'll go get breakfast. Just wasting time with that. So yeah, I just started running. The sun kind of rose over those hills, and I was feeling kind of good. And I was like, I'll just carry on with this feeling, right? So I kept going, and then I basically went as far as I could go. So to the end of Santa Monica when it was about to become Malibu. And then I was like, well, there's only one way to get back, and I'm quite far away now, considering what I thought I was going to go. So I ran all the way back, and I remember my competitive edge in me when I was running back up from the beach. There's like quite a steep, like tarmac hill. I remember this guy being in front of me, and I was like, I'm going to burn this guy, because I had to make it fun for me at the same time. Sure. So I did that, and then got back to the concierge, took my shoes back, looked more confused. I had blood blisters on my feet and everything, but I didn't care, and I was just like in this real nice mood, and I couldn't understand why. It's like, well, it's a beautiful day, it makes some kind of sense, but it was way more heightened than usual. And then at the time, my mum was going through cancer treatment, so I'd hear from her every now and again, but I wasn't like expecting a call or news. But she'd spoken to her doctor that day, and she'd been told she was in remission. So for me, after that moment, like I can pinpoint that exactly as like the happiest moment of my life. I've never been happier. For the rest of the day, I just planned everything around making it like even more special. So went for a nice lunch, got a bottle of champagne, just straight enjoyed myself, and just was so like overly happy. So yeah, that was my first running experience. And then unfortunately after that, I think it was less than a month later, the cancer had come back, or maybe it never left, don't really know, but it came back. So she was back in the fight, but I was always sure that she was going to get out of it. And then unfortunately, so when we got the remission news, that was August, and then she passed away in January. Wow. So yeah, not that long afterwards, it came back, and came back aggressively. And I found myself running again, not on the beach in Santa Monica, but like around places at home, late at night. Like that was something I digressed. It was like something I just ended up finding myself doing. And even it was like, obviously when I was sad or angry, and I realized now, or even I don't know, a year after something, I was trying to find pieces of that happiness I had from that first long run. So yeah, taking it to some extremes since.
I was going to say, I think picking up on that journey, like there's a runner's high, and then there's moments in running that you live for. And like, if you can tie onto something which is such amazing news as that, then you want to recreate those moments. But I just want to go into, if let's go with you a little bit about your mum had non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Yeah.
And for you as a family, obviously you've got a brother, right, and a dad, and so 3 boys. And this is about men's health this month. And I think I know that if it was me, my brother, and my dad, we wouldn't talk to each other, and we're rubbish at that, and we will continue to be rubbish at that. But we're working on it. But I think what I'm interested in is how running for you, we'll come into this a bit later, but like what it was used for. But actually, before we get to that point, because there's a gap between your mum passing and then you doing, the first marathon in Christmas. How were you at that time? Like, because if you didn't know running was a great coping strategy for you, what were you like?
I wasn't great. I'll be honest. There was a period straight afterwards where it was like people were like, you're almost doing too good, and I was doing too good. I was just like suppressing the reality of what was happening. So I was all like, I'm so grateful I had it for the amount of time I did. Everything's gonna be okay. She'd have wanted this, like this, the standard stuff. And like I do carry that with me still, but there was definitely a period where I was not okay. And it kind of it got worse as the time went on. It was more like shock at the start, and then finding coping mechanisms to deal with it, or just trying to put on like a brave face, like, oh no, I'm okay, like it's all good. But I'd never had like a real tragedy in life before. Everything had gone to script. So like my dad's parents and my grandparents had passed away, but they were in their 80s, and it was like that's natural. This is what you see in the Hollywood movie. But I was always so sure during her treatment and everything. I was like, she's going to be fine.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things as well that grief is something that we should be prepared for, because we're all going to experience it, but you don't want to talk about it and you don't want to accept it. And then when it comes, you're actually not as well prepared as you think you are. But I just want to check it. So when you know, running was a way for you to cope. And so mindfulness is something that often people talk about. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't really work for me. I find it really difficult to do. I don't really like doing it. And it ended up actually being more negative than positive. But I'll go for a run. And during my run, I think of nothing other than probably things like, this is really hard. Just keep going, like, just don't stop. And by the end of it, I've passed an hour and I've actually been completely engaged in what I'm doing, which is mindfulness. But in terms of when you're coping with grief, would you say that you were using running as a way to escape or avoidance, or actually were you using as a time where you could accept feelings?
It was definitely a bit of both. And it was never like planned. I wasn't like, okay, it's 11 o'clock at night, I'm now going out for a run and I'm gonna think about all that I'm grateful for and think about all the happy memories with like Mum. It was just, I'd go out and it changed depending on, I don't know what kind of mood I was in, but I'd always find out when I got back I'd feel a lot better. So part of it for me was like it was almost, I call it acceptable self-harm. So I could beat myself up on a run and people not look at it and be like, oh, he's sad. It was just, I would push really hard, or I'd hear a certain song come on and I'd start sprinting and probably crying. And there was other moments which I will talk about, but it's not, nothing was ever going to happen, but I'd have these moments where I'd close my eyes if a bus was coming past or a lorry, and just consider the fact that it would be very easy to just lean over. I was never going to do that, but there was something, it sounds awful, there was something refreshing about knowing I had that control to make things stop. But always there was that like bird on my shoulder or angel on my shoulder that was like, this is how I'm going to deal with things. And I guess I didn't know it was going to become what it has now and like sort of my purpose in life, but I found myself doing it more, being able to deal with things better. And then whilst I wasn't perhaps maybe talking to people in the most honest way that I could have done, it was such a great mechanism for me, because as I said, by the time I got back, like I didn't get that happiness I had on that beach run, but I got a little token of that. I was like, I remember that feeling somewhat. So.
I think it's a good point. Like, emotion is energy, isn't it? If you can allow that to think. And it's amazing that you speak like that, because I think in terms of when something significant in your life happens, there's a period where you have to deal with it. And you probably, I think most people would say they probably won't initially deal with it in the right way. And you've got to do that. When you say self-harm, that is a coping strategy for some people, and it might not be always healthy, but you kind of got to go through those periods to get to the next point. And you kind of made a decision. I don't know if you made a decision, but something happened and you were like, well, I'm going to make something of this. And I'm sure it escalated. I'm sure it wasn't like a day you thought, I'm going to do something with it. But I know that obviously for families, and again, this isn't a topic that we're going to touch on in December actually, which is important for us, is about how the festive period is an amazing time, but it's also probably the hardest time that some people will ever face. And loneliness isn't just about being alone. You can be lonely and be with other people. So I guess Christmas was the first marathon you did, right? Why? And also, like, how? Because you can't just run a marathon, and you think you can, and I'm like, Will, you can't.
I mean, there was no training schedule for it. And I remember, again, I was in LA at the time, and that was almost an escape for me as well. Going there was like I could get out of that reality at home. Home for me was like, the family home was like, half the time it was like a blessing. I was like, I feel close, I have all these great memories, and half the time it was like, I can't, like, it was like too much narrative of your mum's not here. So getting out of a country over there was almost like, I can just pause things. This isn't happening. I was still running there, I was still feeling things, but it was like almost another life. So when I was there, I was like, well, I'm going home for Christmas, and I was like, I'm really not looking forward to that, like, at all. Because Christmas is so much orientated around, every memory I have of Christmas is about her. Cakes, sorry. She did make cakes.
Cakes,
getting the Christmas tree, decorating it, wrapping the presents, the dinner, inviting family around. She was like the key that held family together. So she'd organise things. So the Goodge boys are useless. We would just go by her schedule, and then that was great. And it was Christmas. But I realized I really wasn't looking forward to it, and half of it was me thinking like I need to avoid the reality of what Christmas is. I was like, how can I do that? It's like, well, I've been running quite a lot. I mean, people run a marathon, so I was like, why don't I just run a marathon on Christmas Day? That will take up, I don't know, 5 hours or something.
Yeah.
I'll be knackered afterwards, so I'll probably go to sleep and then it'll be done. And then the other half of me was like, and it's almost like a Christmas present to my mum to do my first one on the first one where she's not there.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and I'll raise money for Macmillan Cancer Sport, because I was like, the Macmillan nurses helped her, so this is her Christmas present to them.
Yeah.
It's just embodied in me doing something that maybe isn't that regular.
Mm.
And yeah, the response was crazy. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was, but then I guess it makes sense, because it's the last thing people probably consider on Christmas Day is to do anything physical, really. And a marathon is, and your first one, and it was all, the route I made was all around home and like important places. Mm-hmm. Serendipitously, it actually added up to a marathon anyway.
That's cool.
So yeah,
I think it's an interesting point that you make, that like your first thought was like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want this. But then you flipped it and thought, I'm going to make it worthwhile for her. So it actually became all about acceptance and giving back in a way. And I think that's what I really like about your story, is that it's not really about running. And for me, running isn't about running. It's about what it can teach you, how it can make you feel. And I think, so you did that though. And you were able to run a marathon. I can accept to an extent, Will, that people can probably run a marathon. Like, it's going to be really hard, but you can do it. But then at what point did you think, I've done a marathon, probably now going to run the length of the UK? Like, when does that happen?
It was pretty soon afterwards, actually, because the reception was so good. I think it was between 22 and 24,000 pounds were raised, and I was like, wow. It's like, that's amazing. Should be proud of that. And I was like, well, I don't think I can do that again, as in have so much interest. I've done my first one. So I was like, what's bigger than that? I remember a lot of the crazy ideas have actually happened around a family friend's dinner table. And I was thinking, what could I do? And I was like looking at mad things like running in the Antarctic and things like that. And I was like, it's not feasible.
Why would you start there?
Don't know. That's just where my head was at.
Okay.
It's not feasible. And then I was like, what? And then Sarah, the family friend, she was like, why don't you just like run around England or something? And I was like, that sounds interesting. I was like, what about, I looked at the map and I was like, what about from the top to bottom, like dissecting it? And so I threw that idea out to some friends. They were like, why don't you do John O'Groats to Land's End? I was like, oh yeah, people cycle that, don't they? Not actually realizing what it was. And then I was kind of all of a sudden hooked and obsessed with that. And I planned some ultra races in the build up, but it was because it sounded so crazy to me. I liked it, and it was going to be, I understood the process was going to be, there was going to be so much, not just planning, but it was going to take a lot of my attention for such a long period of time. So from announcing that I was going to do it, or I then had to plan it, I then had to organize some races, I had to do my best to do a training plan and then actually do it. And I just felt like it was the perfect follow-on from that. So my mum's born in August as well, the 18th. So I really didn't enjoy her first birthday. She wasn't there. So I was like, I'll do something like the Christmas Day thing. I will start this challenge on what would be her birthday.
So you've spoken a little bit about like finding your purpose. And I think I like it when people talk about like you found your infinite purpose, like you know every single thing that you want to do, and you've got a clear focus and goal, and you feel at comfort when you find that. What's yours though? Because to do that, there's a couple of things that you've said that might be why. Like, one is it takes your attention, which is amazing. The other is to remember your mum, raise money, and do those things. Is there something in your head though more? Like, what is your like underlying everything that you ever do? Why are you doing it?
A lot of it's making it mean something. Like it scares me that I could lose someone so close to me, and it all be negative. I can't allow that to happen, because she was so amazing. I can't make her last thing that she died and that's it. So using that, as you say, energy is emotion, using that negativity, but making it really mean something and doing some things that people think is wild or crazy or impressive, makes me think that it's a certain amount of positivity has come out of it, and that makes me deal with it better.
Right. So it's for others.
Yeah.
You want others to see it and be like, that's like we've chatted about it when you were doing your 48-30, and the main thing was just like, that's so mad. And then that was a great chat. Like people were interested in it.
Yeah.
So you're trying to just let others know that this is what I'm doing, and you can do anything. And it doesn't have, I assume it doesn't have to.
No, I say it as well. It's like if you find something that helps you deal with something negative, if it's creative, if it's physical, great. But find something and use it. And if you can use it to perhaps inspire other people or make something really positive out of it, then hold on to that and go for it, basically.
Yeah. I think I was interested in this chat because for me, you could look at what you do as unhealthy, because you're like, well, when does this end and who is this for? And like, is he okay? But actually your way now of speaking about it is like, this is actually an amazing way for me to feel better, but I'm actually, my reason for it is so strong.
There's still selfish reasons, like it makes me feel good doing it. So there's that, but then the onward effect from that is there's so much bigger meaning to it. So it's just like that's a cherry on the top, is that I actually enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah. It's like a present of a holiday to someone. You get to go on it, but they enjoy it. Best thing ever.
Exactly.
I want to talk, so just for context, Will ran from Land's End to John O'Groats, right? What did it look like? Like,
it's the other way around, but
John O'Groats to Land's End. Yeah, if you ended,
my friends wouldn't have come up.
Yeah, it's not the best.
John O'Groats.
Cold and wet, and nah, you're right. What was, we've had so many questions, and please do continue to submit your questions, because I'm just as baffled by everything that Will does as everyone else, and intrigued by it. What was your structure? Like what was your time frame, distance per day? What was your routine? Like all of those things.
The worst thing was there was no real structure. I'd taken the route from a lady called Sharon Gates, who'd just got the female record.
Okay.
So I was following that, but for the most part, the team would actually Google Maps like the next destination
like
somewhat along the way. I'm not that good at planning. Executing, I do okay.
Yeah, just running that.
But the plan was for that, because I had Robbie Ballinger with me, who's like my brother now. For context, he ran across the US. He was the first like ultra runner I found through. I was in LA at a cryotherapy place, and they heard what I was doing and said, "I know, right? I know, right?" And they told me to follow this guy because he was running across the States, and this is when I'd announced it. So I was obsessed with the guy. Anyway, long story short, he ended up coming to help me do mine. So I took his structure basically and just made it the UK instead of America, which is less impressive, but
yeah, it's still all right.
It was all right.
I'll give it to you.
So it would always be an early start. Okay. The worst thing about a point to point, so John O'Groats to Land's End, is if you mess up, you have to do the extra miles, and you don't always you can have an aim to do 50 miles or whatever in a day, but there's elevation in that, things go wrong. So it was high stress, but basically they'd wake me up at 6 a.m. Robbie would come in every morning with a coffee and some porridge, or he called it oatmeal, I can't remember what. So I'd eat that, and then it'd be 6 mile blocks. So go out for 6 miles, have a stop, refuel, have some food, 6 miles, same again, 6 miles, same again. But the issue with that one, which is quite interesting, is for the first 9 days I was taking codeine. The worst thing about that was it was my mum's medication as well. So growing up, I was always like paracetamol and ibuprofen. I was like, well, this doesn't really hit the spot, does it? I was very quick fix mentality. I was like, if something was painful, I'd be annoyed that mum wouldn't give me like a pain. I'd be like, come on, relax, like it's medical stuff, just give it to me, everyone's doing it. Yeah. So I was very like naive and blasé about it. So I took codeine with me, and I was having, I think it was the maximum, which was 8 a day, or whatever it had on the sleeve.
Wow.
So firstly, I redefined runner's high. I was actually running high. I was hallucinating a lot. I couldn't sleep for the life of me at night. I was having night terrors, so I was dreaming when I was awake, and when I was also running, I'd see things that weren't there. And it was more of like a downward spiral. Like I started the first day, I think I did 63 miles, and everything was sweet. Well done. I'd done 63 miles before, but I'd never ran the next day. So day 2 was the first day ever, even after a marathon, I'd never ran the next day in training. Okay. So day 2 was like, okay, now you're in it. Yeah. I did 55 or something, and then day 3 went real bad, and I think it was 33, which was my worst day. It was either day 3 or day 4. So I was on a downward spiral of figuring things out, and yeah, it's kind of horrific for the first part. But also like that whole thing of what's it called, acceptable self-harm. It was like I wanted and needed to be in that.
You wanted it to feel.
I wanted it to be horrific.
Yeah, and it was.
Which it was.
Yeah.
And I didn't. The worst thing was like you expect like a downward bit, but it to rise back up.
Sure.
And mine wasn't doing that, and I was getting more and more lost because of obviously the high-grade painkillers I was taking. But I also had CBD with me, which was great because a good friend of mine that I played rugby with was playing rugby with a guy called Grayson, who's the founder of Pure Sport, and he'd sent me up some product. And so on day 9, it was actually funny. My ex-girlfriend, who was in the States, had messaged the team and was like, "Is Will all right? Because he's really not looking, or I know what he's in, but he's not right now. Is he taking something like codeine?" And I don't know how she knew that. But but on the phone, I remember they told me after, it was like, "No, he's not doing that." I definitely. And then so my brother had the job to tell me on day 9 after I had my nap that I couldn't take it anymore. And at first, my initial reaction was like, I literally said this, I was like, "Oh, relax, mum," thinking that's how I would have spoke if it was my mum doing it. And then because I was going so downhill, Robbie had also told me that my initial plan for finishing in 14 days was like impossible. And he was like, "We need to restructure this. Like, do you want to have a day off tomorrow?" And that annoyed me because they'd been speaking about it for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So from that point, there was a real stark change. It was coming off of those painkillers, being told that I was failing. And then the rest of that day, I think I got up to 55 miles. So I went back up again. But then, yeah, I took CBD that night, and it's not like a quick fix thing, but because of the combination of coming off of codeine and taking that, they woke me up on the morning of day 10 and they were concerned. They were like, "Will, you look really tired. Are you okay?" And it was like a light bulb moment for me. It was like, ding. I was like, "No, you just woke me up from sleep."
That's the first time you.
Yeah, I was like, and then from that point on, it was 60+ miles every day. And the best thing about it was that I came back to who I was. There was a period where I just turned into not me.
Yeah.
I lost me for a while, and then the curve up was wonderful, and it was almost like the journey happened in the right way. I found out I went through a really quick lesson.
Yeah.
in taking painkillers unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And then I went through the really, really terrible stuff that I was almost seeking. But then the end was like, I don't know, redemption. It was like I could celebrate it, and it finished in like a real bright and happy way. So yeah, it was quite a lot crammed into 16 days.
There's a theme with you though that I think was definitely going to come up when we get to 48-30 about how when the team told you, "Well, we're going to have to restructure, you're going to have to need a day off," you're like, "Well, I'm not doing that. I'm going to push on even in the tough place you're in."
Yeah.
Do you think, what's your thoughts on resilience and you as an individual? Because I have a definition of resilience, but I think yours is going to be very different to that.
Resilience for me is just, I don't know, it's like an unwavering feeling or something deep within someone that is like, there is no chance that what I'm seeking to do is going to not happen. Like there's no chance. I remember on joggle as well, I rolled my ankle, or was it my knee? I think I hurt my knee on the penultimate day, and the team were like concerned, and I was like, "I've only got 42 miles left." And I was like, if I have to crawl that or get crutches, like I'm sweet, I'm ready to go. So yeah, resilience to me is just any sort of outside influence doesn't check in with your inside goal.
I think that there's going to be people that will find it hard to relate to what you've done, but resilience, consistency, discipline are all things that translate into every form of life, and success as well, I think. And for me, what you do really well is you turn up to do the things you really don't want to do, and you do them every single time, and you won't let it won't let them stop you. So was there ever doubt that you couldn't do it?
No.
Like,
it's funny when people ask me that, I'm just like, because I think it's because of I put it in my mum's name, and the whole thing of like me making it mean something. I can't fail that. I could fail because of a horrific injury. I'll accept that can happen, but there's no way if I can take another step forward that I'm not going to.
Yeah. And I think on that joggle run, you were probably pretty close. I've seen you walking with poles, head torches, like all kinds of ridiculous things. There's like truck behind you with lights on, like it's extreme. But then obviously every time you do something, you're like, well, I did it.
Yeah.
So I can do something else. And I think, again, that's what like running does for me. And I think that's why I really encourage everyone to do it, because you will get to the end and you'll probably hate it for a while.
Yeah.
And it's so funny though, like for me, sort of 3/4, 2/3 is always going to be hard. Whether you're on 5K or a marathon, psychologically, you'll get to say it's 5K, 3 to 4K is going to be your worst.
Yeah.
And then you'll sprint finish and you were like, well, I could have done that the whole long.
Yeah.
So what's your relationship like with your mental well-being?
I think it's pretty good. I mean, running definitely helps. I'm not going to say I'm happy all the time, but I'm also like realistic that we shouldn't and can't be happy all the time. If you think that you're going to be happy every single day and that you're never going to be down, that's so unrealistic, and that can also like double down on you feeling bad.
Yeah. Because
you go through a cycle of, why do I feel bad? I must be depressed, or I must have anxiety. But if you can just, for me, I can take a moment and a step back and just accept it for what it is, and I really feel that helps me every day. Like if I'm sad or upset or anxious, I can just be like, okay, this is fine. There's probably reasons why I am, and just like being ecstatic, this feeling isn't going to last forever. And then you can take some actionable steps that you know are going to help to like get back into your groove. But just knowing that life isn't going to be sweet all the time really helps for me.
I didn't know what was going to come from this, but I couldn't be more actually aligned with you being like, great, actually, with where you're at and what you're doing and why you're doing it. But then, right, the most recent one, that you did 12 marathons of Christmas in between that, right?
Yeah, that was we'll just say that was a
training we block. Would get to that. We did 12 marathons in 12 days in the lead up to Christmas last year. Yeah. Which for anyone else, we can just talk about that. But then this year, I think you started September, ending October.
Yeah, September the 4th was.
September the 4th, 48 marathons in the 48 counties of the UK in 30 days.
Yeah, that's just in England, but.
Sorry, Will. That's right. You did Lands and Joe and race away.
Yeah, I know. Done enough running here now.
Yeah, I think you've covered the UK. What was the reason behind this one? Like, was it just I want to do more, or was there actually something about the counties, something about the time that you thought would make the difference?
Well, once you have an itch and you scratch it, for some reason they come back. So I think that's what's interesting about running in general. And when you hear people do a marathon, I don't know what the stats are, but I think most people that run a marathon probably go and do another one. There's something about it that once you've conquered something, it's like you want another piece of that. You want to get that feeling back of doing it. So yeah, it was 2 years after I'd done joggle, and initially I'd actually looked at doing a marathon every country in Europe because of the whole thing of I've ran the UK. I want to like go and see something. But obviously I'd planned most of that out, so it's going to be the same format, 45 though, in 30 days finishing at London. And then obviously the pandemic happens. And so for me, it was like, well, I know I can't do that. And when COVID progressed, I was like, I know even if I wait another year, like I can't hang my hat on that I'm going to be able to do that. And I want to do something sooner. So then I was like, I wonder how many counties there are in England. I was like, I keep it on home turf. Because we're not like the Americans, like 50 states, loud and proud, got staff for each one.
Yeah.
No one knows.
No, I had no idea.
No one knows.
If it comes up in a pub quiz now,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, funnily enough, they sometimes change. So.
Oh, really?
I don't know when the last one was, but when I was looking at it, sometimes they change. So I googled it, and it was like 48, and I was like, well, I guess that's it then.
Obvious,
I was like,
right? Yeah.
48, 30 it is. Same kind of format, and yeah, I wanted it to be. I'd done John O'Groats to Land's End, and I wanted it to be bigger and longer, basically. I was like, I want to test myself again and see if I've still kind of got that in me. Have I lost any of that because I did that last challenge?
Yeah.
Do I still have the dedication, like the mindset to push myself to get through something?
Yeah.
And at the same time, it was like, there's a really good opportunity again with charities really struggling through that period to raise some money for a charity, because I guess people were I knew there'd be some kind of interest in it. I didn't know to the scale, but I was like, I can use the platform I've got for something that's great and to help Macmillan. So yeah, I started speaking to them, and they were real happy I was going to do it, and their involvement over the whole challenge was insane. So,
and Macmillan, because they looked after your mum when she was on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd done the Macmillan challenge for the first Christmas marathon, but I'd never really known sort of that much about the charity. I'd done it for them, and then the John O'Groats Land's End I did for Save the Children, because Mum used to donate to a children's charity. So I was like, that one's for her. And then I was like, Macmillan really did help. So learning more about them and what they did was amazing for me, and realizing, because I never went to any of my mum's like chemotherapies or anything. She was very like, leave us in the dark, so we could assume everything was fine.
Yeah.
So I guess it was almost a path of discovery as well, of realizing what a charity did for her, because I always knew they were there, and we got offered afterwards, like, if you need to talk to anyone, like Macmillan can help that. And I was always like, I'm not really a talker. I'm running now, so don't worry about it. But yeah, learning about what they did was
It's
amazing.
funny you say you're not really a talker, because you talk very well. I'm sure it took a long time.
Yeah, I was always somewhat good at talking, but I couldn't get into like the deep stuff. Yeah, it was more like a show of, like, I can come up with some kind of script that people are going to accept and be like, okay, he's fine.
Yeah, I think there's a point we all do that, and you're like, I'm going to go crying out there if you just
exactly.
There's been loads of questions that we've had about this, and there's so much interest in, like, again, how did this one work? Because I followed Will's story really, really closely. If you follow him on Instagram, you've seen the whole thing. You nailed it. Like, you got this one really right, and obviously you're more of a seasoned pro at these sorts of things now. But like, can you talk us through again the structure? So you did 18 double days, 12 single days, but like, what a double day would look like, but also like food and your recovery process as well. I think that's a massive part.
Yeah, this one was a lot more dialed in. And as I said about like a point to point, there's the stresses of if you go wrong, if you get a bit of the route wrong, then you have to make that up. But with this, it was, if I'm in the county lines, which I was for all of it apart from 2.1 miles, which I had to make up, I could, every step counted. So for me, from a mental point of view, there was so much less stress there.
Yeah.
And I always knew, so doing John O'Groats and doing ultras, I know I can run, the furthest I've ran in a day in 24 hours is 93 miles. So I know I have the capability to run either 52 miles in a day or 26. Most of them are obviously the former. But for me, mentally, I could, being able to take every step that counted, and knowing in a couple of days I've got just one marathon to do. For me, I felt like no stress, which is brilliant. So the structure was, I'd wake up usually at 6. I'd have coffee, might have a bowl of cereal, but I'd keep it light. I don't really like running too heavy. So the whole thing of carbo loading the morning of is not a thing for me. Have coffee, have my Boost CBD. I had CBD multiple times a day, just because the effects I've had in just my normal life, and especially my athletic one. Coffee, cereal, Boost CBD, and then I basically get out the door, and we've kind of figured out the structure along the way. But what ended up happening was, I guess, after probably between 10 and 12 marathons, I'd figured out the formula of what was working. So out the door for an hour and a half to 2 hours. In that first stint, I could get between 10 and 13 miles done. So that was a big chunk of it. So either close to half or half. And then I'd get into my next stop, and then I'd have more of a feed. Sometimes I found like a bacon butty on the go. I was big on the pastry shops. If I could find a pain au chocolat, a bacon butty, and an oat flat white, I knew I was going to have a good day. So I might find something like that on the way, but either way, my first stop would be I take on more fuel. So I had fresh fitness food meals, so I might have like their scrambled eggs and stuff. I have some toast with peanut butter. The van was amazing as well, so that was another element that added to the somewhat comfort of what I was doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, more of a bigger meal there, and then I'd have either a coffee or a Red Bull or something, keep me going. I never hit caffeine or sugar too hard. I'd then go out for another hour and a half, hoping to cover another 10 miles, and then that would either be 20 miles done or just over 20 miles done, and then again come in same kind of format, have like a big meal, like a sandwich or I don't know, pasta, something high carb, and then I'd probably have a sugary drink as well, just a Coca-Cola or something, or a Lucozade. I always had Lucozade and water with me, so I'd have 250 milliliters of each of both. Yeah, and then I'd knock out those last. Well, it was like 10 miles, 10 miles, 10k basically.
Sure. It's interesting because, like, when you say it like that, I'm like, oh, I'll probably give that a smash. You're right, but it isn't like that. And I think that the muscular pain, if anyone's done any form of endurance, no matter what level you're at, you get that point where you. And I spoke to you actually before. It was actually at a Fresh Fitness Food event when I was like, because I was training for marathon as well, and I was saying to you, is there a point at which you get into a headspace where the pain is set and then you can just keep going? Because like I found it that I want to get to that place, but I'm not sure I have. Do you have that, like where you can, because you're very present with everything that you do, I think, so you can feel it, but you just can push on, and then actually that's not so much of a fight. Whereas I'm like shouting at myself, like fighting everything. So yeah, I get one marathon, but then when you've got to do the second one with the same format, how do you maintain that emotional stability as well?
I guess it's somewhat relevant as well, because if I did a single marathon now that I've been training for and was going as hard as I could, like if I'm searching for a PB, you best believe afterwards I'm not going to be able to do another one.
Yeah.
Well, unless you told me or challenged me to it, and then I'd probably have a mental switch and go, that's interesting, let's give that a go. But honestly, no. And the next day I wouldn't be good and I wouldn't want to run. But because I was always somewhat within myself, and I've done big runs before, it's like I'm prepared to do those distances if I need to, probably right now.
Yeah.
And I've done it so many times that I'm never that concerned about it. And pain-wise, it does get to a point where I think you're so used to it that it's less shocking. So like, self-diagnosed, but it's quite certain I have a stress fracture, so I didn't run for 6 weeks afterwards. I ran for the first time last week. Amazing. So I had shin splints, I think, from marathon 10 that got progressively worse. But then there's also like a ceiling of how bad that pain can get.
Yeah.
So I could just accept that it was there. I could still move. There's always going to be points in every single one of those runs that I'd walk or stop for a break. So yeah, I don't know, I guess and the whole thing of hanging my hat on, like I've been in worse places and I've carried on. So I don't have an excuse this time to all of a sudden start waving a flag.
Do you think you're different to others because you can do that?
I don't think I am really.
Really?
I think people can find it. I think I might be different to someone because they haven't gone to those places.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I'm any kind of special case. Before I was never doing anything that brilliant.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing this long run.
What's happened with your mum has been the catalyst for you discovering that?
100%. I would never be doing this right now.
It's not a good question to ask, but you doing it now, does it give you appreciation that it's happened, that you've done something positive with it?
There is some positivity out of it, yeah, because I'd say I wasn't doing anything particularly interesting before. People might have been interested because I was playing rugby, or I did some modelling work, or I was in a foreign country, because like the whole social media thing, oh, that looks great, doesn't it? wow, what a great time he's having. I was absolutely broke, by the way. Probably not that happy, so don't believe everything you see. But yeah, there was nothing special going on. I had no special plans. There was nothing. Yeah, I was just floating through life. Not that interesting, really.
Do you feel proud of yourself for what you've done with it?
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah.
I think there's still things to do, but I'm proud. Like, I think with age as well, like the longer this goes on, and I can look back on what I did, and it wasn't all great. Like, I still had those fall off moments where, like, I always say there was like two paths after that happened. I could have gone down a very different route, and sometimes I hopped over from this running route to that route.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest here. There was some times that I did the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Partying, all that kind of stuff. The whole thing of going to LA is like an escape.
Yeah.
Like, I still did that, but I had I don't know, that was my real anchor.
It's funny because I think all of these questions that I'm asking there, because like you can feel these things inside, but you don't outwardly project them.
Yeah.
Because you can be proud of yourself and you don't have to say it. But I think like everyone else can have admiration for you, and it's probably quite tough as well when everyone's saying that's amazing, and you're like, yeah, but like I've been through this, and this is why I'm doing it.
I don't deal with it. I almost get imposter syndrome sometimes, because people see what you're doing surface level, and it can. If I saw someone else, if the script was switched and I saw that, I'd probably be like, oh wow, like that's amazing. But
probably how you are with Robbie, I imagine.
Oh yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like what I think is it's an amazing thing that people see you like that way. But I think that your infinite purpose is so strong. And I want to touch on a point that I know you've spoken about before, because this actually, the theme I'm getting is like presence, acceptance, and how running helps you. And you have like this good vibe when you run. I feel like when I run, sometimes I go out late at night, I love it, and I feel like a kid. And you like, I remember when you did your 1,000th mile, you released that video. It was like Vanessa Carlton, and you're like running down the street, like aeroplane arms out, and that is like just those moments. Like I say, is what you live for. But I think you've spoken about there was it was your last double.
Yeah.
The last 4K of that, like how you can reframe a situation, and also how you wanted to feel something. Can you tell us through like where you were at that point and why you did what you did?
Yeah, so in that, I assumed, because the structure was, I started them with like a double marathon, a single, a double marathon, a single. So I did a lot of doubles to singles at the start to sort of get me into it. But timing wise, I did most of the 3 days of doubles sort of in the middle, and close to the end. So I had 5 days of singles at the end. My thinking for that was, I've got 5 days of buffer if something goes wrong in the planning, and if it goes right, I've got 5 days of great.
Yeah.
Just one every day.
Yeah, you say that again. Anyone else? 5 is terrible. But yeah, I see you.
Yeah, but when you've got 48,
you've done all right. Yeah.
it sounds better.
Chill out at that point.
Yeah. So that was my thinking, and I remember the last block of when it was 3 double marathons in a day, I was like, mentally, I was like, that's me like over the hill, and those last 2 double days, they'll be fine. So I was thinking it was going to be almost not easy. Well, hell, I thought it was going to be easier than it was those last 2 doubles because of that mental aspect of it, and then knowing I had 5. But yeah, the last double day wasn't easy at all, actually. And it was probably the first time I put anything negative out to the world. You say I do all like the fun stuff, and I do. There's always times where it sucks and I'm not having a good time, or I'm upset, but I don't want to put that on people sometimes. So yeah, the last double was, where was I earlier? I think it was North. The last one was Rutland Water. I remember that much. And the weather was terrible. It was like 45-degree rain. I was running around Rutland Water, which I think is the only thing people know about Rutland.
I was going to say, you did doing all the counties. Some of them you must be.
Yeah.
Not much going on. It
was really beautiful. If it was sunny, it was amazing. But a lot of it was trail. And yeah, it was horrific weather. The guy, James, the film guy, came back, which was cool. But I also had Robbie driving the van because we were down a crew member, so he was there ready to help run with me and do that kind of thing, but he was having to drive a lot. So there was some stresses at that point, and the weather was terrible. So once I got out of that trail, there was, I think it was just under 3K. It was just under 5K. There was a flat section on road that I did, and it got to another point of Rutland Water where it was trail. We got round there the first time, and I was like, nah, I'm not going back out into like those trail things. There was hills and everything. I called Robbie, who'd gone ahead. I was like, come back to where you last saw me. I'm just going to go up and down this bit because it's flat. I'm sure it's raining and there's no tree line, but it's chucking down so much, whatever. So at that point, I think I was at halfway. And for some reason, when I got onto that flat bit and Robbie was going to join me, I was just like, in my head, even though I was struggling, I was like, this is probably the last time it's going to suck this bad. And remember, Will, I like it when it sucks. So I was like, I'm going to try and just run for the whole last bit. I'll stop at each side of this thing, and I'll have, if I've got snacks on me or a drink, I'll have a snack, but I'm not stopping again. So start shuffling along. Robbie joins me. It's nothing too crazy. I mean, I'm just feeling like I'm going to do this, even though my shin's blown up. It's horrific weather. I'm not enjoying it. I'm just like, remember why you signed up for this. So that's going along. And then I get to the last bit where I see I've got 4K left. So it's a 2K out and back. And I'm like, again, I just remind myself what I'm doing. And I told James to put the shower on because you have to heat up the boiler or whatever. So there's warm water. So that would have been enough time for me to get back and be warm water or whatever. And then I just remember the reason I said that was I didn't want that comfort. I wanted that for Robbie or for James or for whoever was with me. But I didn't say that. And then for some reason, something just came over me. I was like, I'm going hard. So it was weird. The last 4K actually felt about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's a real interesting thing that happens when you're doing these ultra things. There's a real tangible energy. So people will know around you almost when to talk to you. Robbie's very good at this. That's why I like having him around. Talk to you or just be silent. And I needed those most of the last half to be silent.
Yeah.
And so we just took off, and I just kept building up speed. I think my kilometers were over. I think they were maybe like 4:30 per kilometer for those last 4, which after what I'd done felt fast to me, and it was dark, so it felt fast.
Regardless, it's fast.
Yeah. And then when I turned round, I remember thinking for the last 1K, because I'm in waterproof gears, I've got my hood up. I was like, again, remind myself I'm here. I'm like, I was like, I want to feel this exactly for what it is. Like I didn't plan on, this wasn't a plan, but I got the shower on, but I didn't want it. It was like the David Goggin thing.
Yeah.
A long story short, he did his first 100-mile race. His kidney started failing. He was in a bath. He'd pooed himself basically, but he didn't want to go to the hospital because he wanted to enjoy that feeling because he'd earned it.
Yeah.
So I kind of took that in my own thing. I was like, I want to feel exactly the environment I was in. So I was like, jackets off, tops off. Like Robbie was like, do you want me to take that? And I was like, I didn't even speak. I just handed it to him. And then I was just like possessed, sprinting for the last kilometer to the end. And yeah, I was just like pulsating with energy. And it was an incredible feeling, and one you can't get. I think that's the reason people do this stuff. You can be as successful as you like. You can be rich, but you can't buy that.
Yeah.
You have to go and find that yourself. You have to put all that work in to find it. So
yeah, and you also can't get it just like that. You've got to do things to get to that point as well.
So yeah, I just wanted to I wanted to feel the exact environment I was in.
I love so much about that story, but the main point is that your hero Robbie just turned into your van driver by the end of that. I think that again, like, it's about the feel and the things that it gives you, and again, it's not really physical running, it's about that headspace that it gets you into. And so the whole challenge, we've only got a couple of minutes left, and I know that so many people have asked about what's next for you, but the whole challenge was wrapped up in London, and I ran at London with Andy, who works with Vitality as well. And I remember we saw you on the start line, and you were like, "I'm going for sub 3," and I was like, "Oh, I haven't. Leave it out. Well, like, give us a chance. Like, that's insane." Did it in 3:06.
Yeah.
Like, unbelievable. Like, got stronger, in fact, as the challenge went on. I think that's what, like, your 5th official marathon as well.
It was my third.
Third official marathon. So everyone watching.
And 2 of them were part of that challenge. What was it? Brighton and London.
Right.
The only one I did before was LA.
Done one. Yeah. So I think people have a lot of admiration for you, but that is like unreal. And I think it's about feeling this. It isn't about running performance. If you are a slow runner, if you don't feel like you're an athlete, everyone's an athlete. Everyone who can move their body can do these things. So what do you think is your aspirations for the future with running?
I think there'll always be other things to do in that space, because I'll always gravitate to it to find those moments. And as you said, it, for me, like that last time sounds impressive, yeah, but for me it was more the mental thing of leaving it all out there.
Yeah,
I had to do that for myself personally and for Mum. It was like, if I'm going to finish this, I'm going to make sure that I've done everything throughout.
Yeah,
there was no like I can just breeze through it like a victory lap. I didn't want that. I don't feel like I deserved any kind of victory lap.
Yeah.
So in terms of what's next, I've got Marathon Disciples coming up in March, which is a big and scary one to people.
It'll be a hot
and
one.
It will be hot. So the distance doesn't concern me, but the heat.
Yeah. So just so people know, it's what, 7 days?
I think it's 6 days, 250k in the Sahara Desert. And you carry your stuff with you.
Pretty good.
Should probably plan it more.
Plan that one, yeah.
Yeah, and there's always a part of me, because of like my connection with Robbie and that being my first like exposure to any real kind of running challenge, other than I remember seeing Eddie Izzard do the 50.
Yeah.
But the first like big thing I saw and was obsessed with was Robbie running across the States. So I've always thought I want to do that before I'm 30. 27 now, so there's a few years left, but yeah, there's no like set in stone plans.
There's no limit as well. I think talking to you, I'll back you to do anything. Honestly, and we always try and like wrap up with the same question. So from a kid, I've always said, I don't know why, and I don't know where this came from, that I want to do 2 things in my life. I want to live to 100, and I want to get knighted. Because if you get knighted, you've done
some good stuff.
And if you live to 100, you're a legend. So the kind of question that I want to ask you is, in your life, what do you believe is possible for you? And the reason why I want to ask this question is because I want people to say out loud the things that they probably have in their head. There's no such thing as anything is too big. Like, in your own head, what do you, and I'm especially interested in you because I think limit is something that you don't really look at. So what do you think you can do?
That was also, I don't know, I've never actually probably considered this, but that was one of the things to come out of 48:30 was joggle was horrific and I got through it. And 48:30 was almost like I performed that well without really doing much training and without having that much structure in place. Like what is that? My question was, what can I actually do?
Yeah. How
can I up this again? So in all honesty, I actually don't have the answer. And for me, it's, I guess what I'm seeking is to figure that out. I guess that's my ultimate goal, to figure out where the line is, where I really can't push any further. And then I will feel satisfied.
At that point,
I'll probably be like, okay, that's what I've got. There it is.
I think one point is clear, is that 48:30 is not your limit. You can definitely do more than that. So we will follow your journey for sure. And for everyone watching, I think, Will, you're an amazing person at spreading the joy of running as well. So I'm a member of the Pure Sport Run Club every Wednesday, 6:30, Batty Puppy around tonight.
Yeah, come
Will
down.
is head coach. Do you just want to, final thing to leave people with, like, in terms of Pure Sport, what you're doing and the running community as well? I think that's an important part of this things that you spread, which is so positive. Yeah,
that was huge for me because like the whole challenge thing is such a lonely aspect of running.
Yeah.
I was never part of a run club before. And then I joined the Pure Sport team, natural health and wellness company. And it was like, I don't have any experience in marketing or business or whatever, but it was like harness something you love and just kind of invite people along. So I had a product range that I truly believed in. And before I was always very much about, I love my freedom. So to seriously commit to something like this was a huge deal for me. And now I've got so much more purpose in my life because of that. There's products that can genuinely help people, and our community aspect is so huge as well. So the run club, the fitness club. So it's just about turning up somewhere and inviting everyone along that wants to come, and there not being any sort of other, like, that we're not trying to push anything to people. We're just like, come and do something that's good for your wellness. You might get a good feeling about the brand because of that, but we really just, we're here anyway. So come and do it. So yeah, it's been amazing for me in terms of just my health and like flipping that switch from the quick change. I want something that's going to work like right now, to understanding how good natural products can be. And in the long term, like anything good is worth like waiting for and investing in. So we're very much about long-term health over quick fixes, and yeah, I'm happy to sign up for that.
Amazing. And I'm a big fan of the whole community element and what you create.
Thank you.
Black Friday sales just started.
Oh yeah, 60% off. So yeah, it's a really big one for us. But sometimes the price point of the products looks out of reach. When you actually work it out, it's always going to be less than that oat flat white you probably buy wherever you get your coffee from every day. But this is a real good opportunity. If you ever thought about it, if you ever thought or heard of adaptogens or nootropics and been interested in it, now is definitely the time to give it a go. And who knows, you might get some amazing results like I have and countless other people. So
amazing.
Yeah, that'll be at puresportcbd.com. And if you want to find us, we're at puresport.co on Instagram, and I'm at William Goodge.
All of those things I was about to say, legend. Thank you so much. Well, I probably wouldn't say this to people generally, like but I'm trying to do it more like tell people how they make you feel. And you genuinely do inspire me. And someone who comes from a running background, to be able to spend time with people like you make me want to do something like this. And I think I can, but I don't know it. But I will take inspiration from you, and I'll probably call you up and say, Will, I'm going to run 50 miles there. Come with me. And I know you will. So, and I think you've inspired so many other people here today as well. So we really appreciate you joining us, sharing your story, and actually just spreading that goodwill about running and just generally life. Actually, I think it's so much bigger than that. So thanks so much for joining us today. Hopefully you've enjoyed the session. We've got another one on Friday, which will wrap up our men's health series with Daley Thompson. So make sure you check that out. Go check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, like, tell your friends, tell your family, and make sure you join us again. So thanks so much.
Pleasure.
We'll hopefully see you again soon.